see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Well, welcome back to One-on-One with Angel, and we took a couple of, was it, I think, Chris, 2 weeks off? Was it? Felt like?
We only took 1 week. It felt like two, but we only took 1 week off.
All right. Well, it felt like 2 weeks, but nonetheless, it is One-on-One with Angel here, and tonight, back with me is cable guy Chris from the Salem Capitals. I did say the wrong team earlier. I want to make sure I get it right because he said he would kill me. But from the Salem Capitals, and I want to explain for those who are listening in on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, which I do appreciate everybody tuning in here, not only stateside, but internationally, and also over on AMP Radio. There's 4 different ways, obviously, you can watch us and hear us. 2 ways is during AMP Radio, also on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game. Then you also have broadstsouth.com and along with TBLTV.tv. So those who are subscribed to TBL TV, thank you guys for watching over on Broad Street on the radio side. So lots of ways you guys can end up catching the show. But so I'm going to just paint the picture for those who are listening on the radio. So the lady that is with us this evening, and I want you guys to understand this one here. She called not only the most excellent game during the Eastern Regional Finals, but she puts the D in Destiny's Child. She is the Knight towards Gladys Knight in the Pips. She is the entire package, and we know her as T. Johnson, the broadcaster for your St. Louis Griffins, and she joins us here tonight. And T, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute joy to be able to be a part of the show tonight.
You're welcome, no problem. And who knew, right? So you come in this season, and Chris, he'll know the feeling because obviously his second year with Salem, but you come into this season, and it's different when you come in and your team makes a run and you don't make the playoffs, and or your team makes a run and they make it into the playoffs, but it's an exit out. You, on the other hand, have gotten extremely lucky with St. Louis because St. Louis took care of business and no one saw that one coming from Albany. So you got the call, which who knew, not your last game for the season, because now you guys are in the finals. So I want to know, what's the feeling like that's going to be coming up here, because you guys host game 1. So I know it's going to be a lot of nervous jitters, but what's it like now going into the finals?
It's really exciting. I wish I would have been able to record my reaction watching the game on Monday when Timmy Goodwin hit that shot. I mean, I was in here. I don't know how many times I jumped up and down. I definitely scared my dog, but it's really exciting to be able to have the opportunity, like you said, to start the season off. I haven't broadcasted in quite a few years. I first started off at my alma mater at San Jose State, and I was the color commentator there the year after I graduated. I didn't get the chance to finish the season because I had the opportunity to go play overseas. So that ended my season short. So to be able to pick it back up and go full throttle, and now to be able to commentate a championship series, it's crazy to see. Like you said, nobody saw it coming. I think, especially with them facing Albany, a really good team that has, won, and they have experience winning. So it's a really great feeling.
Well, I wanted Coach Griffin on tonight, and as you told me, they had practice this evening because they're going to be making a travel trip. Well, actually, they're at home. And then they'll make the travel trip out to Potawatomi. And for the finals, by the way, because I have not mentioned, it is the St. Louis Griffins against Potawatomi Fire. And Potawatomi, again, the second-year team in. So this is what's great about the basketball league. Not only is St. Louis the first-year team, the inaugural team to come in this year, that no one saw this crazy stretch run because a lot of people picked Albany and Potawatomi to be in the finals. So for what St. Louis did was incredible. Yeah, Chris too. I'm gonna make sure I put it out there.
I did. I will own it.
You did. Now, here's the other thing too. Before I get back to St. Louis, so Chris has been on fire with his picks, and it's a good thing that we don't have like a sports betting app, because we would have. I don't know how much the payout would be by now, Chris, because I think I want to say all but maybe one game where you missed out.
I missed all the St. Louis games. I literally did not pick them once.
See?
And, so St. Louis would have, if this were like my March Madness bracket, St. Louis is the Cinderella that would have killed my bracket, but that's okay. I have three other regionals that worked out perfectly.
No, that's true. And again, Potawatomi, I mean, great job again, second year team in. I mean, those guys, Chris Cox crawled a great game as well. And I think he was shocked because Potawatomi also was down. They came back at the very end. I mean, this year, I think probably one of the better years in the TBL as far as when it came to the finals because it's been so exciting. St. Louis, though, I mean, that was it almost. You're looking at Albany that could have taken it. Obviously, they won game 2. They brought it. Game 2 was all about Albany, and it seemed like they had Coach Griffin's number because offensively, defensively, Albany just shut down the Griffins. There was nothing to do. The guys were getting frustrated. We saw one guy, he ended up getting ejected.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of emotions that went on in game 2. I don't know what Coach Griffin talked about on game 3, but whatever it was that he talked about, he better talk about the same formula here in games 1 through 3 for the finals because it was insane. So talk to me as far as, obviously you were there for game 1. Unfortunately, games 2 and 3, not unfortunate, but it was in Albany. But game 1, the feeling in St. Louis, and not only that, because St. Louis right now needs a lot of good momentum, a lot of good vibes coming to the city. How much is this meant for the city of St. Louis?
Oh, it is special to the city, and expect to see the gym packed this weekend. St. Louis really is a community that needs something positive, and we've had now the soccer team that has came to the city, and that's going good. That's been a big part and a big part of the rebuild, but the feeling is just insane because I don't think that anyone expected St. Louis to get as far as they have. A lot of these guys are from St. Louis, grew up here, and the St. Louis community, especially the basketball community, is very tight knit. I have discovered that since I've been here since 2020, and everyone knows everyone. They've all have some experience playing against each other, and so it's like you see these guys play all the time, and now they usually all play with different teams, and now they're putting it together on one team, and so it's like, oh, we see them all the time, we watch them play all the time, but now to see how serious it actually is and to watch them all come from different teams that they've always played against each other into one team and they're going as far as they have, it's just been really special. And I think Friday is going to be electric inside of the gym. It is going to be packed.
That it is. And if you guys have been watching on social medias here when it comes to the TBL, so unfortunately the wrong date has been posted up there. It is the 23rd is game 1 on Friday night at 8 o'clock. It does say the 22nd. So if you guys are looking for a game tomorrow night, there will be no game tomorrow night. Game 1 will be on Friday, 8 o'clock. St. Louis is the host city for game 1. And I can imagine it's going to be absolutely electric. And Chris, as we take a look at the finals, right, as outsiders, I mean, because exactly what we're looking at right now, but the stretch run from what we've seen from these teams, I mean, you even look at Shreveport. Same thing. People thought it would make a good run into the finals. And you can just see, a lot of the coaches naturally get upset. Cliff Livingston, I know he was upset, obviously, when Kokomo was exited out because Kokomo, one of the other teams that was also picked to go to the finals. So, Chris, getting your take from these finals right now, leading up to it, obviously, because we ain't got the finals yet, but we're coming up to it. What have you thought of so far to this point from the games that we've seen?
I've seen players who you wouldn't expect to stepping up, hitting the key shots. I've seen coaches just firing their team up in a way you can't imagine, like, unless you're in that moment. I mean, I wish I could be in the locker room some of these half times just to hear what's being said because the players come out for the second half. They're fired up. They're getting on that court. They're running up and down. They know what's on the line, especially game 3, with Albany. It was win or go home. And I mean, it went down to 2 points. That last shot with 1.6 seconds left. Yeah. I'm yelling at my phone because I'm rooting for Albany. And I'm like, no! I'm like, yelling. And my wife comes out. She goes, what's going on? I'm like, St. Louis just scored last second. 1.6 to go. I'm like watching my phone. I'm like, I'm like, no. I'm like, I was just like hoping for that 3/4 court shot to go. But that's why you play the game, because on paper, everybody wrote St. Louis out coming in at the 4 seed at 16-8. I mean, they actually had a game reschedule because, I can remember who it was one of the teams couldn't even make the travel for the playoffs. So It changed the whole front of the bracket. This could be a whole different thing if that first game would have played, and it would have been a different mindset. It would have been a one and done for both the parts of that division, we don't know where it would be. So that one extra game for St. Louis moved into Kokomo, and look what happened. I mean, here's where we're at now.
Right. And then you take a look, and this, goes for obviously for all three of us here, but you take a look at the Seahawks. Again, the Seattle Superhawks.
There we go. There we
uh,
go.
and it's because you said it earlier.
I did it on every broadcast at least once. I said Seahawks
Yep.
every dang time because I'm from the Northwest. That's what you hear, you breathe when you say Seattle, because there's no Sonics.
Right.
It's only the Seahawks. You say Seahawks.
Yeah. Nope. So again, apologize to Seattle out there, the Superhawks, because I'm the same way too. It's been stuck. I do NFL work, so and it always gets stuck in my head as well. But Seattle being again another inaugural team to make it as far. I mean, there was teams this year once again that we can't. For the teams this year, unfortunately, and let me go back because I was just told that it couldn't be heard on the radio because I had to bring my mic up live. Once again, this is what happens when you go live. Things happen. But now everybody can hopefully hear me on the radio as they've been able to hear you guys the whole entire time. You just didn't hear me saying the questions. But thanks to everyone once again tuning in patiently on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game as Lame Duck here, guy, forgot to turn on and activate his mic for the radio. It happens. But thankfully, you guys were able to hear T and Chris. So that's really important. I mean, absolutely nothing. So, but anyways, getting back to it here. When it comes to the Superhawks, another inaugural team making the run that they made this year. I mean, to make it to the conference finals, listen, it's not a small feat, the regional finals. It isn't. And you have to pat yourself in the back to make it as far as you did because you had taken other teams that have been in the league between 2 to 5 years to get there. So Seattle was a great feat. St. Louis obviously taking care of business with Albany. I know Coach Rowland was really upset towards the end of the game, rightfully so, because you were the team expected to win. And he just got outmanned. He got out coached. He said it during the post game show. It happens. But unfortunately, it's one of those things. You hope you have a game plan to come in. You know exactly what's going to happen. Again, you take a look at game 2, and I mean anybody could have bet at least 101 odds that Albany was going to take care of game 3. But T, I was the same way, in the same way with you, Chris. That 1.6 second shot, I was going back and forth on social media that night to make sure I'm updating everybody on both games that were happening on the same night. And both of them were absolutely fire. But that clutch shot for St. Louis, I mean, that's an instant replay. And that should be a game that just should be showcased over and over and over again because it is truly incredible with what St. Louis has done to get to this point. And again, the city of St. Louis should be extremely proud for what this team has done. Coach Griffin, not only again the coach, mayor of the local town as well. So, I mean, the man wears many hats and has put together a really great team. So, again, come to the finals. We'll get the predictions here a little bit later on because I might know what Chris is going for. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
And I don't think T gets to pick. She's biased. I mean, you hear Kirk Herbstreit on you hear him on Saturdays. I'm calling this game. I can't pick this one. I know where T's going. I mean, obviously we know where she wants to go. But yeah, we'll see.
I think they match up pretty well. I think that it's really going to have to be when you look at the two teams and how they match up. I think they match up pretty well, and you have Deshaun Munson, who is a native to East St. Louis, which is right next door. And, he has grown up with these guys as well. And so they're all very familiar and just, that level of competition and the emotion that's going to be behind it, as well as those fans that'll be there. That's the thing about basketball is that it could be anyone's game. But right now, I might be a little biased just because of the role that the Griffins have been on, and just really, it's really the grit that they have. And that's one thing about that last game that they played against Albany. They kept them under 100 points, and it was just really a game they had to grind out. And Albany not really being used to being kept under 100 points throughout the season. You see a lot of games where they've had over 140 plus points in a game.
Yeah.
Which to me is just sounds ridiculous from a defensive end. Just where's the heart, right? Like just at this point, just have some heart. Make a foul, do something. But I think that's one thing about St. Louis. When you look back at the games against Medora, the series they played against Medora, the game that they played against Kokomo, and the games that they've now played against Albany, some of those games just really required grinding it out and just having that level of grit to make it to the finish and fight all the way until the game finished. And they played some really great teams, and it was really good basketball. But it'll be interesting to see.
It will be. I mean, again, it was the grind this year that we saw from St. Louis again, and no one, and absolutely no one. And matter of fact, hopefully I'll get together with Wendell, and I'm pretty sure Wendell's going to write a great piece when it comes to St. Louis, because no one saw this small market team come out of nowhere and make the run that they have. Because if anybody was saying in the beginning of the season, and if Chris and I would have started with the show in the beginning of the season, I think even Chris and I would have been like, "Huh, St. Louis? No way, they're not going to." I mean,
Right.
we probably named 5 other teams to make it other than St. Louis, and it's just. It goes to show you when it comes to the basketball league, and even though, and I want to share this out there with the world, you guys have to show up for one of these games so you can see what it's all about. People just think, well, it's the basketball league. Maybe it's a high school team. No, it's not. When you watch the product on the floor, you guys get enamored with these teams and you get to see what it's all about, how hard these guys work. And some of these guys obviously worked a full-time job, even with the
Yep.
full-time job they have with the courts. So it's not like, they're not your NBA players, even make it to the G League. Those guys get good contracts at the G League level, and they may not play all season long. With the TBL, you are earning that contract, but you also go out there and you're doing other things as well. So a lot of these guys have multiple jobs, they have multiple gigs, they do a couple things, but because they come back to the community, make sure they take care of what they need to. That's the beautiful part when it comes to TBL. The Basketball Super League, which is coming up at the end of the season, there'll be some talks. We got the Summer League that is coming up here in Vegas, July 9th through the 12th. And that's going to be a lot of fun out there in Vegas. Can't wait to get out there and cut it up with everybody else. But that's going to be a good time, because then there'll be more talks about the BSL and what's going to end up happening. I mean, there's so much stuff that's going to come from next year. So, and there's new inaugural teams that are going to be coming in as well. The Pharaohs, who end up relocating, they'll be back. One of the other Texas team will be back. So there's going to be so much competition. And then you add the Canadian side of the house, which is going to also add to the current competition. So let's just say, hypothetically, if St. Louis keeps up their Cinderella story, ends up winning, they got a lot more teams to deal with next year to get back to that top, because you are not guaranteed, just like any other major league sport, to get back up there. So it's been a lot of fun this season. And again, watching these teams and what they've been doing. I mean, Potawatomi, who took care of Enid, Shreveport, Seattle, it's been a lot as far as what they end up doing, how they've been getting up there. The same way with St. Louis. I mean, the drive, and these teams that they, when they go. One thing that I will say, again, using the NBA as an example, you get the commercial airliners. You guys are nicely tucked in, and you get to stretch your legs, even though, yes, most of the guys are trees, but you get to stretch your legs. Not so much with the TBL, because these guys are putting together either a carpool, a van, sometimes, and I'm saying this jokingly, sometimes a U-Haul, you got to get a couple of milk crates and put it back there. But whatever it takes is what I'm trying to say, to be able to travel and make it until the end of the year. It is a complete different grind. And I think that's why all of us, the broadcasters, people who work in media, everybody who does what they need to do to make it successful for Evelyn and David, I wish you guys would come and support these teams, because I'm telling you, you would understand. Follow one team in your town for one season, and you'll understand why the TBL grinds as hard as they do, and for these teams to be out there to market themselves so they can come back and bring that product up. So, Chris, it's just been, again, from the broadcaster side, obviously T, who I said called an excellent game. And for those who don't know, she also played basketball before in college, also played overseas. And not only did I also learn something about her, and Chris, you might be surprised about this one as well, the stats that T puts together in her head and then just rattles it off. It's almost like I wish, do I have so it would be like if somebody came in the room, right, and gives me a whole list of things that goes on as far as the stats, and hand it to me, and I start reading on air, because no one can see me, right? As far as when it comes to the feed, you're seeing what's going on in the court. If you listen to T's game, she rattles off stats Like LeBron can remember stuff from years ago. It's ridiculous, but it flows so well. That's what makes it super enjoyable because you just hear her bring up the stats. And I didn't know until we talked afterwards. And then she told me that I was blown away, just mind blown because I couldn't believe that she actually just rattles that stuff off. But so if you guys want to hear a great broadcast, tune in 8 o'clock, tbltv.tv. If you guys don't have a subscription package, you can buy a 1 game pass for $4.99, the best $4.99 or $9.99, I believe, one or two that you will spend just for 1 game. And it's just incredible. If not, come right back here to Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game, and you guys will hear game one on Friday night live here on the radio side. But Chris, it really truly has been magical for the season. I mean, it's been incredible. Yeah. I want to say, as we're getting crazy enough to come to a close here, as far as for the season, what's been, I will ask at least for one good takeaway that you've seen this year from the TBL.
I would just have to say how they share the TBL shares the love with every team. They're trying to promote, they promote every team at least once throughout the season, whether the Maglies are there or whether it's some community outreach or the best dressed coach in the league, or even though Kevin Johnson should have won it at least once, didn't, but he should have. I'm biased there. But overall, it's just the way that the league is put out and the fact that it's community based, as you were saying. With Salem, we don't have any players that live out of market. Everybody lives close. Everybody is within a 30-mile radius of the arena. Some of the other teams in our division were flying people in to play for the weekend. So, it's a model that didn't work because you didn't have that camaraderie. You didn't have that bonding. You didn't have hey, we're going to have a team dinner Tuesday night after practice. You don't have that. So that's one thing the TBL brings, is that you get that ability to become not just teammates, but a family. And the family includes the broadcasters, the court staff, the table. It's not just the players and the coach and the TMO. It's everybody who's a part of it. And even the Maglies understand that when they come to arenas and visit with everybody.
Yeah, that's true. And listen, I don't know, the same way, I don't know how in the world they end up doing it. I've seen it from the beginning when we were together at the Combine, when it came to team market owner meetings. I saw all that stuff in action. And the day that we left from Florida, it was 72 degrees. We arrived in Indy, it was 4 degrees. So big change in temperatures when we got there. But as far as for the 4 days prior to the Combine, all the meetings, everything that goes on to lead up into the season. And Evelyn and David don't slow down, because a lot of times David will go up to Canada to see the product that's going out there in Canada while the season's playing here. So Evelyn is in one direction, David is in another direction. And then towards about midway of the season, they kind of both get together. They may travel out to one of the local teams together. And then you'll see the split once again. You'll see David going up to Canada. During the playoffs, I don't know how their car has, I don't know, it's got to easily have 300,000 miles on it by now, because they travel, everywhere. So you're talking about a president and CEO of your organization that do not stay at home. They are out there. If you're the product, they are definitely out there. They're not, and nobody, everybody within the team, within the organization, try to get out there. I know with Commissioner Wiley, he tries to get out there as well. Everybody's constantly doing something. But when it comes to the Maglies, they are at their venues. They're everywhere. You go from Albany to Potawatomi, those guys are just everywhere. So hats off to both Evelyn and David, because of their product that they put together, it is community orientated. And if you guys, again, are not familiar and you're listening overseas and you come here stateside, and or if you live in Canada, come next year when the Basketball Super League comes together, just take a look at this product, because you guys will not be absolutely disappointed, because it's amazing what the men, the women do. Obviously, the dance teams, the same exact way. It's just, my hat's off, because it's nuts. The same way with the broadcasters, with Chris, with T, a lot of guys. Owen's getting the intern of the year. He got his watch a couple days ago when they went to go visit him out there as well. So, it just takes a lot for all this to come together. And I hope people really appreciate what the Maglies are doing, because it takes literally the mountain for everyone to come together and be on top of that mountain and not look down upon anybody else, because everybody's on top of the mountain, just making sure that everybody reaches that peak. And that's where we are right now. The peak of the season is here. The finals are here. Potawatomi Fire against St. Louis Griffins. And I'm just getting goosebumps from it, because looking to see what both of these teams did just to get to the finals, it's incredible. So I will then now come back to, and I'll start off with Chris as we get ready to go to game one here on Friday night. So we'll go with game one first, because I want to get the winner out of game one. I'm pretty sure we know who T's going to pick, but I want to get your pick first, Chris, on game one Friday night.
I think with all the excitement and everything that's going to be happening at home for St. Louis, I have a feeling St. Louis is going to take game one. May not be my more than 5 points, but they're going to take game one.
All right. T?
Well, if I go based off of history, so far St. Louis has won game one of their series that they've started. So with that being the trend and those being home games, based off of history, I have to go with St. Louis for game one. And like Chris said, the excitement and the atmosphere that's going to be in that gym, that's like a 6-man on the court.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm going to go the same exact way, because I think St. Louis right now riding the momentum. I mean, come on, 1 point. You guys need to. Okay, T. Here's the thing. You guys need to come up with a T-shirt. I know you won't be able to get it done by Friday, but somewhere in that gym, someone should have 1.6. And for those who will be there, they should understand what 1.6 means, because that's probably what it's going to come down to game one. It's probably going to be yet another clutch shot, because I think it's going to be extremely close between both of these teams. So game one, we're all in agreement here that it'll take St. Louis. So now, T, I will come off to you for game two of the series.
Now, game two, where we've seen a trend with St. Louis losing game two, which they did in Albany, and they did with Kokomo, and they did with Medora. And so something about that bounce back with game two being difficult, or that they've run into issues, but you understand, it's hard beating the same team back to back twice in a row with that short amount of time in between, and making adjustments after the game. That's to be expected. And sometimes you come with a game plan, and at halftime, you might have to completely abort the game plan that you thought you were going to go with, and be able to make a decision on the fly. And players need to be able to adjust. And that is something that the Griffins need to be able to bring in game two if they want to be able to have a different outcome than they've had with these last few series.
All right. Chris?
I just have a feeling that after game one loss, Potawatomi is going to come out and light a literal fire under their backsides, and they're going to come out and they're going to smoke St. Louis in game two. It's going to be a 20-point game in game two, going Fire's direction.
Ooh, that's a big 20 points. That's a big separation. All right, make sure everyone listening in, put your bets in, because Chris just said it's going to be by 20 points. So, and we'll come up with our own sports betting team. I don't know. We'll give it a fancy name, whatever it end up being. But listen, 20 points.
Broad Street parlays.
There you go. But I think I would have to give it to the Fire for game two. I don't think it'll be by 20. I do believe it may be by 10. I think St. Louis tries to give it their all as much as they possibly can for game two. But it's going to be a tough series, which then would lead us into a game three, making the best of three as far as the series itself. Although it could go the other way, we could be shocked. You could have St. Louis just taking complete control, taking game one, game two, or Potawatomi doing the same exact thing. So now we get up to game three. And this is where I'm just going to make it a little bit more interesting here as I switch things around. So we're going to do and I haven't done this in the last couple. Let's see if I can get my mouse here to move around. All right. So I haven't done this in a while. So we're going to use our 24-second shot clock here. So we can say who's going to win in game three. So I'll start, and it means that both you guys got about 12 seconds each on a 24-second shot clock to let me know who's
I want
going
T to go first. I want T to go first on this one.
Okay, so T, you're first. 24
Well,
seconds.
I go based off of stats and I go based off of probability. So, and I got to root for the home team. You guys know I have to root for the home team. So I'm going with the Griffins, but I'm going to have to say 1.6.
All right, Chris. Oh no. It's the Fire. All right.
The Fire is going to destroy St. Louis in Game
Oh,
3. They're
all
going to
right.
get burnt, plain and simple. Going with the Fire in Game 3.
All right. So now, hopefully, there won't be an extreme fire there at the house. I know you're in the
Nope, there
studio.
won't.
Yeah.
I had it all prepared, ready to go, bucket of water, everything I needed. I just had to have that visual aid to help with that one.
Listen, I understand, but for me, this is here. It's really tough. We've seen both of these teams. We saw what they did to get to the finals. For me to decisively say that St. Louis went into winning this the same way with the Fire, it's so hard because if we do get to a game 3, this is going to be a grudge match that I think would be the best game that we've ever seen from the TBL finals. And I'm talking about in the 5 years of existence. This may be the biggest one. So do I say it tonight or do I wait until game 2? But when it comes down to it, I think St. Louis really does take I think they take the series. I think only because when you look at the grind that St. Louis is doing right now, and I know I see comments that people make, oh, St. Louis, sometimes they play dirty, this and that. And I know as fans, we're going to say it because it's what we do as fans. I don't care what team it is. St. Louis just has this grit about them. Not taking anything away from the Fire. Believe me, Potawatomi, please don't get upset with me. Not taking anything away from you guys. It's just St. Louis has that one spark, just as we saw the Fire lit up by Chris. There's that one little spark that St. Louis has. So, Fire, to you guys, Potawatomi, what I'm saying to you, the gauntlet has been thrown down because you guys are not going to have to bring it only on game 2, but game 3, as Chris made his prediction about 20 points, that's the way you're going to have to beat St. Louis in game 3 if there is a game 3. So, interesting take by the crew here tonight. So, I hope everyone tunes in here, 8 o'clock. Once again, Friday night, game 1, St. Louis Griffins hosting Potawatomi Fire. Also, the head coach from Potawatomi ended up winning the Coach of the Year, which, again, surprising. I thought, honestly, it was going to be Coach Rowland, and there have been other coaches as well. But again, you never know what happens in the TBL. So you guys tune in. You can tune in right on TBLTV.tv. Again, it's that $4.99 package, 1 game pass. You guys should check it out. And you'll hear T behind the mic, a great broadcast. Once again, if you guys want to hear a good color commentary, play-by-play game, if I can spit it out all at once, you're going to hear the best game of the series. Chris Cox, not taking anything away from him as well because he called a great game. But if you guys want to hear stats, again, no stat sheets. There's not a stat sheet that she has. It all comes just neurology right from her head, and it's absolutely incredible. But so I hope you guys tune in. It's going to be a great series. Don't forget, you can also listen to it right back here on Friday night, 8 o'clock on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game. So I hope everyone tunes in. They enjoy it. But before I let everybody go, I'll start off with Chris. Make sure everybody knows where they can reach out to you on social media.
At Cable Guy Chris, CBLGUYCHRIS. Follow me on Twitter and or Instagram on there, and follow, share, all that good stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, and by the way, if you guys don't follow social, Chris puts up some good stuff up there. So follow it because he does put some good stuff. And he'll call me out there as well on Twitter. So it's good stuff that he put together. So T, same as you, make sure you let everybody know where they can follow you on the socials.
Yes, you can follow me at Vegan Tea with 4 E's on Instagram, and my business page at Prosper by Nature on Instagram and TikTok.
Well, that's true. You know what? Before I go away, let everyone know at least a little bit there about your business.
Yes, so I have my husband and I have started a holistic wellness business, and we are also certified personal trainers. So on there, we post recipes. We're vegan. I converted him. It was really like either you eat what I cook or you make your own food. so and so that was the easy transition. But so we post recipes and cooking videos and different health tips and getting our wellness business up and running.
All right, well, that's
And
good. And again, I apologize to those because as I let off the other show, and by the way, and it not an excuse, but it's just the way the night went. Tonight there was a debut on my Broad Street South page. If you guys don't follow it, go to broadstsouth.com. It was debut of the Football Stories, the magazine show. That is, the writer is Brian Baldinger. If you guys know him, he played his NFL career, also an NFL analyst on the NFL Network. The host of the show, Al Thompson. The producer is Al Zafiri. You guys can catch that live every Wednesday night as they made the debut on the network from 6 to 8. Then after that, I had Gerard Tucker, the head coach of the 95ers, that was on with me. We had a 20-minute conversation. And then I forgot to unmute my mic when I fired up this show. And so if you guys missed out in the very beginning, I do apologize because that was my mistake, my bad, and I didn't mean it. So once again, thank you for everybody who tuned in on AMP Radio. Again, on BroadStreetSouth.com, over on YouTube, TVL TV, and finally over on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game. For Chris, for T, my lovely producer over at Studio B, we hope that you guys enjoy the finals, and we'll be back here next Wednesday, and we'll see if that fire that Chris lit is absolutely correct. So we'll see. We thank you guys. We'll see you all come next week. Enjoy your weekend.